Dude, you can come out. The dust is gone. I can breathe again. Roll the open. Outfit changed. Corny open behind us. Did we survive the Dust Bowl? What's up, everybody? It's Scotty here with Flat Track Flashback, and big fan of the Dune movies, but I didn't know that AFT and Warner Brothers were partnering together for a side project. I was almost hoping to see Zendaya and Timothy Chalamet show up. And if they had Larry Pegram in the house, if we had the Worm in town, it would have tied it all together. But hey, we made it through, and it was quite a night. Watching practice and qualifying, I was thinking, oh, this is gonna be a rough one. And then as we went into heat races, it kind of got really fun to watch. And then the main events rolled around, and I still some just wildness that happened in those main events. But the dust was a huge factor throughout the day, and a lot of things to talk about. The singles class is where we're gonna lead it off. Normally I like to start with the twins program and then go into the singles, but the singles was a little bit more, I guess, chalk, if you can say that, or at least that's how it became. But yeah, let's kick things off with how the singles fared there at Orange County Fair Speedway. Aiden Roos-Evans back from injury. Good to see him back at the track. I have to imagine that some of the lingering effects from that crash in Texas is still with him, but he was pretty quick early on and just didn't have the pace throughout the end of the day. I ended up probably not having the night that he was hoping for, but good to see him back at the track. And during the dusty practice sessions throughout the day, you kind of get the feeling that Cody Kopp and Chase Sadoff were going to be right back at it again and duking it out for another win there in Middletown, New York. And Cody just seems to be vibing with that bike so well. And this whole season, he's doing wheelies and kicking his feet out like a happy little kid. And Chase was all business, getting another quick time, his third on the season. And that set up, that first heat race had heavy hitters. Chase, Tom, and Cody all in the same heat race right there on the front row, wasting no time with the popcorn out for the heat races there. And this proved to be a pretty fun heat race to watch. Cody gets out to an early lead, and then Chase just sends it to the top. I thought he was going to end up in New Jersey when he was going into 1 and 2, a line so high that I think Cheech and Chong would even approve of it. And Chase made it work. And again, like after the dusty mess that was practice and qualifying, the track, again, super slick, but it's wild to me when you watch this, how just much of the track is being used by the riders. And the heat racing and the dashes and those races, the preliminary action was actually really fun to watch. Guys just skidding through the track, sliding through the corners, sliding up to some of the fluffier, looser dirt up there on the outside. Some people still holding on the bottom, trying different things. Everybody was just searching for anything they could find throughout the heat race action. But the top seemed to be where to go, and Chase made it happen first, and Cody had to kind of settle in behind him in that first heat race. In Heat 2, we saw a really fun battle with Uncle Rico Tretlow and Justin Jones going at it. Justin Jones putting on for his state up there in New York. Great battle with he and Trent in Heat Race 2 that saw Jones prevail and get into the dash. And Jones looking really, really strong early in the day. Moving on through the rest of the preliminary action, when we talk about, again, people all over the place on the racetrack. Off the start of the LCS, Renshaw doesn't want to be in LCS, we know that, but the leading rookie gets a good start, but then goes wide, gets passed by 3 or 4 riders, cuts underneath, goes from first to fourth to first, and then ends up battling with Landon Kozak for the rest of that LCQ, with Landon Kozak getting the win over his rookie rival, Evan Renshaw, both of them going to the main event. We also got to see Aiden Roos-Evans did make the show out of that LCQ, and also Aiden Brown putting it in the show as well, his first main event of the year on that number 23. So a couple of new faces in the main event up there in New York, and that set the stage for who would be in that main event, but who would be carrying that momentum as we started the singles main event. We had the Owl Lamb Dallas Honda Challenge, and I would not have picked the winner of this. Chase Sadoff was riding a 3-dash win streak dating back to Texas. He'd been collecting those $2,500 checks on 3 in a row, like we said, and Justin Jones gets the better of everybody in this one and gets the win in the dash, and dude was pumped up. And Justin Jones, I more favor him on the short track. He's got wins at Daytona, was a force to be reckoned with down there. Probably 8-9 years ago, mid 2010s there was when he picked up his win, and he showed really good speed down there this year. Picked up a top 5, and man, he was looking good up there in New York. Again, winning the dash on the front row for the main event, and looking to spoil the party that's been sort of the top 4 that we predicted would really run the show in the singles class. Unfortunately, when the main events rolled around, the dust came back, in a big way. And it might have been a factor even during heat races and the LCQ. I just wasn't as prevalent. I'm only able to watch the broadcast, not being at the track. But from the main event, when the lights were on, you could see the dust was becoming a big problem again. And a lot of riders pretty much keeping it to the bottom with this main event. Jones gets an early lead, but Cody Kopp's able to get around him and really set sail. Again, we talked about Cody just looking like he's vibing with the bike. And even though he had to settle for second in his heat race and didn't get the dash win, when it comes main event time, when it comes time to get those championship points, Cody put it all together and just checked out from everybody. Last year he had to run down Chase Sadoff to get the win, but this time he got ahead of the dust and was able to put a gap on the rest of the field. Chase able to get it a second, tried to chase him down. Mentioned on the podium, spoiler alert, Cody and Chase go 1-2. Chase mentioned on the podium that he tried something one lap, trying to switch things up a little bit to maybe make ground on Cody, but ended up getting basically pulled by almost a straightaway. So everybody really kind of having to funnel into that inside line. The front of the pack really sort of stretched out. Not a whole lot happening in this race up front. Cody pulls a free sizable lead. Chase settles into second. Tom Drain moves into third. Leaves Justin Jones to battle with Trent Lowe for fourth and fifth. Further back in the pack, we had a good little pack there with Hunter Bauer and Terrence Santero, Jared Lowe, Evan Renshaw kind of duking it out there toward the latter half of the top 10. Saw a little bit of that battle, but the main focus toward the front. But they did show Cody Kopp had a slight moment out front. I guess when the champ's out by over 3 seconds, you got to stir up some drama where you can. So Cody, a little bit of a moment mid-race, but it wouldn't shake him off any. Cody rolls to that win. He's now got 19 AFT singles wins, which puts him in a tie for the all-time leader in that category with Shayna Texter-Bauman. And, it was one of the records that we figured Cody probably had a good shot at beating this year, is that wins record and that 3 championships in a row. And Cody's really starting to set sail and find his groove, back-to-back wins in pretty convincing fashion before we head to Bridgeport and then Lima and DuQuoin for the rest of this stretch. We mentioned Trent Lowe and Justin Jones battling it out there for fourth spot. Trent edges him at the line, just barely getting by for fourth, which means that the top 4 in points go 1, 2, 3, and 4 in that order there up in Middletown, New York. We'll take a look at the results, run them through. Again, Cody Kopp, Chase Sadoff, Tom Drain, Trent Lowe, Justin Jones are top 5, as we mentioned. How about Travis Pettin there in 6th? Career best for him. We mentioned the battle between Bauer, Santero, Renshaw, Jared Lowe, rounding out the top 10, those guys. And also Landon Kozak, we talked about him making his first main event. The rookie gets a 12th on the night. And James Ott missing the top 10 for the first time this season. As we look at the points, Cody Kopp really stretching that lead now. 26 points ahead of Chase Sadoff, 32 now over Drain. Trent back about 50, and then James Ott way down the order. Like, Cody is really taking control of this championship, and I think he probably wants to wrap it up early. We saw a video of him testing a twin built by Wally Brown, and Cody's got to want to jump up to that twins class. And as we come into Bridgeport, it is a race that he didn't have the best result at last year. And that was a race that was won by Tom Drain over Trevor Bruner. Pretty much the whole night was an Estenson Yamaha showcase there in Bridgeport. Cody came home 6th last year. So this could be an opportunity for Tom and Chase to make up some ground. Tom, Chase, and Trent all did outperform Cody at Bridgeport last year, but this feels like a different Cody. And he mentioned earlier in the year that he felt stronger on these bikes than he did during his Red Bull days. Maybe it's the chip on the shoulder. Maybe it's just the program as a whole, but this is a dominating Cody Kopp that we're seeing. And I do think he's ready to put that number 2 back on and go number 12 in the twins class next year. So we'll see if Cody can keep this momentum going as we head into Bridgeport, and if he can continue to stretch this lead out. We've seen how dominant he is in Lima. DuQuoin could be an interesting wild card for that KTM. We know the Tom's going to be fast on his Yamaha. We know the Hondas are going to be quick. But hey, Cody got himself a win at Springfield last year to clinch the championship. So you can't even bet against him on that surface at all. Going to be fun to look ahead at those rounds. And a rider I'm very much looking forward to seeing at Bridgeport, seeing how they perform, is also Jared Lowe. Jared was in the Dash last year, and Jared has shown some speed on half miles this year. And he got a top 5 in Texas, and I know he probably was looking for a little more out of Middletown. Of course, Middletown and Texas, complete different surfaces. I mean, you probably couldn't have anything much more drastic. So we'll see how this all plays out when we head to Bridgeport next week with the singles class. And now let's shift gears over to the twins. Y'all remember last week when I said this? When you got people like Jared Meese, who's just not going to have bad nights now that we've got Daytona behind us. Yeah, what an idiot. Man, Jared Meese off all day. Like, amongst the many shockers that we had in Middletown, that was probably the most eye-catching one because it was throughout the day. I mean, off the pace in qualifying. This is a race that Jared won last year, but just didn't seem to be, just didn't seem to have the speed that guys like Dallas Daniels, Brandon Price, and the others had. And throughout the day, he just seemed to touch off. And that was shocking to me. If he was going to have a bad night, I didn't think it was going to be Middletown. Obviously, from last week when I said now that Daytona's behind us, he probably wasn't going to have one. And then here we are. Jared down the running order in qualifying in his night. He'd have to really persevere to not bleed too many points to the rest of his contenders on this night with how things were shaping up. So definitely that was the first thing we saw throughout the early part of the day. And also, how about Trevor Bruner on the Indian? Completely missed that on the entry list. But neat to see Bruner kind of switch up brands and see if they could find anything on that. I'm not sure if that's something they're going to continue on. He's still pre-entered on a KTM for Bridgeport for the time being, but now they've got some variety in their program, I guess, and maybe they're going to pick and choose which bike's going to fit best on each track. Just have to see how that plays out. I did really enjoy the feature that they ran about Briar Bauman's time with Dave and Michelle and switching over his program a little bit and Bruner being able to step into that role. So much good footage of our hero, the 21 Will Davis from Lima, and clips from Daytona and Eldora. And if anybody knows how to get a hold of the 1989 Lima main event or that 96 Daytona short track or any of Will's Eldora wins, if y'all know where to find that footage, please let me know because I would love to see those races. We only got to see, or I've only been able to see one broadcast from Eldora, the 95 race that Scotty Parker won. But, and if we could see some of those battles between Will and Kevin Atherton at Eldora, I would love to see that. Anytime we can see that number 21, especially in the TCR gear or even the Maroney's gear too, man. Anytime we can see that 21 up front, it's special. So really cool to see clips of Will mixed in with that interview with Trevor Bruner. And just so cool to hear Trevor's appreciation for somebody that is also very near and dear to us and how he went about picking that number 21 and the font that they created for that bike. So yeah, we're a big fan of that here. But yeah, back to the Twins program on the night, man, we talked about Dallas Daniels having to sit with that second place from Chico and firing them up. And boy, Dallas was hooked up from the jump, sets fast time. And I was surprised to realize that that's the first time that Dallas has had the Pronto Parts Plus Pole Award on the year. He's gotten some Flo fastest lap things, but as far as being the Pole Award winner and fastest in qualifying, it was Dallas's first one of the year. And Dallas in his heat race, he was all over the track and he was making it work wherever he wanted to. He could roll the top. He was running sort of a enter and dime in the corner, come off really low. He was all over the racetrack and making speed and just looked so, so good. Whereas other guys were maybe trying that slider line up through the track, through the slick. Dallas could just get that power to the ground in that Yamaha and was really looking strong on this day. And then we go into Heat 2. And again, we talk about Jared Meese's struggles. Jared Meese finished 6th in this heat race, which puts him on the 3rd row for the main event. Just wild to see that. And in this heat race, we get to see a pretty fun battle with Briar Bauman and Brandon Price. It reminded me of when they went at it at Port Royal a couple years ago, throwing some just great passes at each other. And Briar had probably one of the quotes of the year in the winner's circle there when he was talking to Kristen Beat, and Kristen asked how he likes living on the edge, and Briar's just like, just almost you see such a genuine response. I don't like it. Such a funny quote there from Briar. He put on quite a show there in that second heat race, and I think Briar would have definitely preferred the track stay how it was so that he could keep those slide jobs and block passes coming. We mentioned the return of Billy Ross, and how about Billy in that heat race on that Kawasaki, just rolling the bottom so low we thought he was going to find bikini bottom. He made that Kawasaki work down there and was able to get into the main event. He beat Jared Mees in the heat race. So props to Billy Ross there. Notably absent from heat race lineups was Max Whale. And come to find out earlier today via an Instagram post, Max stuck his foot in a hole and sustained an ankle injury there. So we don't know how long that's going to keep Max out. So unfortunate. Again, treacherous conditions there throughout the day in Middletown. And unfortunately, it's claimed another rider in our twins class. So we wish Max all the best. Hope he can heal up, and fingers crossed he can make it back before the end of the year. Bronson Bauman picks up the win in the LCQ over Dan Bromley, and then moving into the dash, Dallas Daniels keeps his perfect night going. He wins the mission challenge, and Briar Bauman had quite a moment. We believe he doesn't love having to live on the edge because he clipped the air fence and was able to ride away from it. Very lucky there, because a lot of times that air fence can grab you and throw you to the ground. So fortunate that Briar was able to dodge that ordeal. But man, nobody had anything for Dallas Daniels here, and he just continued to try to chase that perfect night. We saw Jared Mees sweep the night out there in Chico, and Dallas looking to make a statement and got to be frothing at the mouth, knowing that he gets to start right there on the front row with Jared 2 rows behind him. Twins main event, it's off and running. Really bad start for Trevor Bruner. Really good start for Billy Ross. And you just see throughout this race, everybody, again, this dust, brutal conditions for these guys as far as visibility, especially like 1 and 2 seem to be a lot worse based on the broadcast. Like when you enter, it's just a cloud of dust, and then exiting, I don't know, God bless those camera guys for trying to find anybody, because you're just hoping you can see a bike and that is the right person. That dust was brutal. The top 3 really top 4 kind of really checked out early on. Dallas settles into his lead. Briar gets in behind him. Can't really make a challenge on him all race. Dallas, gone. Just ran away with this race. We're not even talking about that much. Briar comfortably in second. Behind them, though, Billy Ross gets up into third place past Brandon Robinson and is running the podium spot for the majority of this race. And then Vanderkoy, Fisher, Price, Mees, Gautier, just Bruner, all just duking it out back there. Really good battle between those guys, fighting through those conditions. And Dalton Gautier and Jared Mees were able to prevail and really go side by side for majority of this race. Jared right there on the bottom, and then Gautier right there in the middle, running a little bit higher line on that Royal Enfield. And how impressive was Dalton on this bike all night? Mees and Dalton just together, they were chasing down Billy Ross and Brandon Robinson. And as we close in on the final couple of laps, you're seeing that gap on the timing and scoring charts just come down. And by the end of the race, even though we're focused on Dallas Daniels out front, we see him come across pumped up. Dallas picks up his second win on the year, his first since the opening night at Daytona. Briar Bauman comes by, and at the line, Dalton Gautier puts the Royal Enfield on the podium. He takes it away from Billy Ross on a Kawasaki by 2/1000ths of a second. And then Jared Mees also able to sneak by Brandon Robinson on the last lap to claim a top 5 and really salvage a pretty decent night, rescuing that from his 12th place starting effort. If you would have told me earlier this year that we would see 5 different brands in the top 5 at a half mile and an Indian would be the worst placing brand, I would have called you insane, which might have been rude. But here we are. When you look at the running order, we look at the results here. Dallas Daniels gets the win on a Yamaha. Briar Bauman, second on the KTM. Dalton Gautier, third on the Royal Enfield. Billy Ross, fourth on the Kawasaki. And Jared Mees, fifth on the Indian. Just 5 brands in the top 5. Wild, completely unexpected. If anybody in Flat Track Fantasy picked that top 5, go play the lottery right now. And if you win, can I get $5? Just $5, that's all. Completely unexpected turn of events there in Middletown. And it's really shaking things up in the points. But before we touch on that, we talked about Briar having one of the quotes of the night earlier in the day. And then Dalton raised the stakes and on the podium, pumped up, talked about everybody being sissies running on the bottom, and he put that Royal Enfield up top, made a lot of ground, and was clicking off so many passes. I wish we could have seen him on the broadcast, but man, good for Dalton to put that bike on the podium. They've got a lot of momentum on that Royal Enfield, and we'll see what Dalton's able to do on that bike and keeping the momentum heading into Bridgeport next week. The points as we head into Bridgeport, Dallas Daniels stretching his lead big time here. Now Dallas, who came in with single digits over Jared Mees, 6 over him and 7 over Brandon, has now stretched to 16 and 18 over his what seem to be the premier title challengers. But Briar Bauman gets that second place, and he's only 29 back. And sure, that is greater than a full race, but they've clicked on something here in Briar's camp. Has now gotten his second podium in the last 3 starts, dominating Wood at Ventura. And there's tracks that I think Briar could really shine on. We'll see how he does there at Bridgeport. He's always been pretty sporty at Lima. I mean, he even pulled a Kawasaki to a win at Lima not too long ago. He's won there on other brands as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see that Howerton KTM super quick at DuQuoin either. Speaking of Bridgeport, that was probably the Twins race of the year last year. We had 6, 7 riders all mixing it up, throwing sliders back and forth at each other. Great racing throughout that main event, and it's these Dallas Daniels prevail over Jared Mees by less than 1/10 of a second. And these guys, Dallas, Jared, Briar, Davis Fisher ran really well last year, and Davis is looking to, again, kind of build back up to where he was at the beginning of the year. Vanderkooi should be really strong there. I imagine Brandon Price will run pretty well on that track as well. Very excited to see what Bridgeport has in store for us. And now Jared needs a bounce-back night. He doesn't want to have this Middletown looming over him. And last year, Bridgeport was a race that Jared very much could have won, but Dallas just outdueled him there. And Dallas going to be riding this wave of confidence after having a perfect night in Middletown. Fast time, heat win, dash win, main event win, extending the point lead. He'll be definitely looking forward to going into these next couple rounds. Dallas beat Jared at 2 of these next 3 tracks in 2023. Got the better of him at Bridgeport and Lima last year. If he can do that this year and have a solid finish at DuQuoin, that's going to be big for their championship. Dallas definitely wanting to keep stretching that points lead, especially as we head into this break before coming back to Peoria, a track that I would think probably favors the old Estenson number 32, who's going to be looking for redemption there once we hit that event in just over a month. Final thoughts, man. Middletown was a roller coaster ride. Again, practice just seemed so sketchy and terrifying, and it's so much fun watching, the guys sliding through the heat races, and then just main events. Like, what is happening here? I just can't count out anybody on any given night. I will say one thing that I've heard other podcasts talk about, and it's provisionals. And I'm not a huge. I feel like we need stricter rules with provisionals and AFT now. Working with the World of Outlaws, their provisional system, if you're a full-time competitor with that series, if you sign the Platinum Agreement, you get a certain amount of provisionals every 6 months that you can use when you don't make the show. So I do kind of understand where AFT wants to give every rider at least one provisional each year to give them a chance in the main event to try to make a little more money and maybe offset some of those costs. But with that being said, I don't know. I feel like some of these provisionals should be a little harder to earn because you do have riders who make one main event a year via provisional and get sort of that national number. And I'm still kind of one of those guys that feels like you need to earn that national number and not just have it handed to you. We've seen guys work hard to knock the 3-digit down to a 2-digit. And I don't think that's something that should just be handed to you. So I don't know if maybe provisionals should be associated with maybe you get like one a year if you finished in the top 10 in points, or if you've made every round the previous year, or if you're a past winner, past champion. Maybe if you fall into that category, provisional should be applied. But I don't know about. I'm still on the fence about everybody getting a provisional. I kind of lean toward making the qualifications a little stricter. And I'm also starting to fall out of love with 18, 19 rider main events. Again, I'd love for guys to have to earn their way into the main event, whether it's 18 in the house or 30 in the house. Starting to wonder if maybe we need 15 rider main events again, like we had in, the very early 90s. Granted, again, we had a ton of riders then and whittled them all down. And, maybe we need that now. Obviously, we did have enough to have the LCQs, and you did have to earn a spot for the most part in these main events. But yeah, then the provisional gets factored in, and I don't know. It's a tricky thing because I do appreciate AFT giving these guys the option to use one and help with some of the financing on the year, if you make it out to the track. But by that logic, I mean, I guess, do we just start everybody then? Which I don't recommend at all because lap traffic is becoming a fiasco as it is. But I don't know. It's not an exact science. I don't think there's any perfect way to do it, but I guess maybe we need to implement a little more tough love there. Thank you all again so much for watching this channel, for supporting what we're doing. Please support Tank Slapping Podcast, Corey and Eric, probably like the top podcast in flat track racing right now. And not just flat track. I think they're a top motorsports and just podcast in general. I really love what those guys are doing. And of course, Scotty Taylor, Off the Groove, for how long he's been doing this, how dedicated he is. Again, he and Corey started the Flat Track Chatter back in like 2012 with the Next Moto Champion Flat Track Weekly Radio show. Those were the pioneers for kind of this like media coverage for flat track. And Scotty now with Off the Groove, great to have him doing the podcast as well. And they got a few little shout outs there on the Middletown broadcast. So please check out what they're doing. Again, what Tank Slapping's doing, what Corey and Sammy are doing Corey Texter and Sammy Halbert are doing on their YouTube channels. Heart goes out to Corey's kid Cruz who broke his leg here recently. So Cruz, heal up. I know you and your dad now both recovering from leg injuries. I guess they'll just heal together and be back stronger than ever before together. So thank you guys again for tuning in and checking it out. Please make sure you're supporting everybody that's involved in this sport that you can. Help out back on track. It's a lot of riders suffering injuries this year and trying to cover medical bills and get back to racing. Please support that cause if you're in a position to do so. It's just amazing to have them on board with us. So that's a wrap here on the Middletown recap. We keep on trucking along. 3 completely different surfaces ahead of us. We've got a clay half mile, a pea gravel half mile, and a big old mile coming up on the circuit. And I'm just excited to have AFT racing on the docket every single weekend coming up. Lots of storylines developing, lots to be excited about with this race, with this series, moving through the rest of the season. Huge thank you to everybody that's involved in the sport. All you riders, God bless you for going out there and risking your lives and to put on a show for us fans. Thank you to the promoters who are involved in this. Thank you to the sponsors, Mission Foods, for coming aboard, Richardson's Dallas, Al Lamb, Honda, Indian Motorcycle, Yamaha, the brands and the sponsors that help keep this thing going. Thank you for investing in this sport that we all love so much. It truly means the world to me as a fan, having so many good sponsors locked in and involved with this. And please support those companies that are supporting the sport. Please support the creators that are making things happen for social media or podcasts, YouTube channels. Support those who are helping promote this sport. Thank you so much for watching. And let's have some fun. Let's keep this ball rolling and enjoy the next round up in Bridgeport. Take care, y'all. Have a great weekend.